Hey everybody, welcome back to the Sawmill again, or if it's your first time watching, my name's Chris. I'm back here with the Woodland Mills HM126, and today I wanted to answer some questions. Of course, I'm not an expert. I've only had the mill for about 9 months, so there's probably a lot of things that I can't answer, but I notice online and on some of my videos and a lot of questions on other people's videos, a lot of the same things come up over and over again. So I thought if I made a video with all those in one spot, it might interest some people. Now, like I was saying, there's a lot of technical things that I probably can't answer, but there's a lot of beginner questions that seem to come up quite often, so a lot of those I probably can answer pretty well, and that's what I plan on doing in this video. Alright guys, first of all I'm going to start right here because I'm surprised how many times I've seen this question come up, and it's in my opinion a pretty easy one to answer, and that is this cover. It's a cover that you can get to throw over your engine, head unit kind of thing on the mill there. And the question that comes up a lot is, can you throw this right over the mill when you're done cutting, when the engine's hot, or will it kind of melt through? And my answer is yeah. I put this mill on every day right after I'm done cutting while the engine's still hot. You can see the outside's kind of this rubbery material, but the inside's like a different kind of fabric that I'm assuming must be kind of heat resistant or something. I'm not really an expert on what it's made out of or anything, and I'm not really sure what Woodland Mills would tell you about that, but if you're just looking for my opinion and my experience, I put this cover on every day for the last 9 months. Now, I don't mean I've used the mill every day for the last 9 months, but it's been on there every day and every time I use it. So I've probably put her on there, 50 to 100 times or something with the engine hot, and never had a problem. So hope that answers that question for you. All right, the next question that comes up quite a bit is, what length of boards can you cut with this mill? I have a 6-foot extension, so my answer would be that technically, I think in theory you can, with just what the mill comes with, you can cut about 10'6", I think. And with the extension that I have, you can cut about 16'8". Now, the big caveat, and it is a big caveat in my opinion, is that in order to achieve that length, you have to have the log like right against the blade here, and you can see even like the head unit of the mill sticks out further. So unless it's like a really small log you can move by hand, or you really need every little bit of length you can get there, and you want to spend a lot of time tweaking the log on this mill, you're probably not going to get that full length all the time. So having said that, I think realistically, this is meant, like with what the mill comes with, it's meant for cutting up to a finished 10-foot board. So if you cut it your log at say 10 foot 1, 2, 3, you should have a pretty easy time getting it up on there and cutting that kind of thing. So hope that answers that question. Technically probably up to about 10'6", but that's getting maxing it right out, and that'd be really difficult thing to achieve. So realistically, probably when you're commonly using it, something like 10'2" or 3 would be a lot easier to be putting on and off all the time. And if you get the one extension like I have, I think I've cut stuff up to 16'6" before, but that took a lot of time, and it was kind of nerve-wracking, especially when it's a big log, getting it like right in here, an inch or two away from the head unit. So usually if I need to cut something 16, like if I want a 16-foot board, I'll cut it at 16 foot 2 or 3, and then that gives me a little bit of play up here towards the head unit so your log's not smashing into that or something. So hopefully that answers that question up for you. Another question I get asked quite often, not surprisingly, because I have the HM126, I get asked, am I happy, am I content with the 126, or do I wish I had upgraded to the 130, you know, now that I have this? Do I find myself running into issues where, you know, I'm getting too big of logs on there thinking, oh, I wish I had the 130 now? Personally, I don't have any regrets. I'm very happy with this sawmill, the HM126. It does everything that I need it to do, and having said that, I think it really is dependent on what you're wanting to do with it and what your personal situation is. I think that's why they have the different sizes of mills. I know for us here on the farm, 26-inch diameter trees getting on the bigger end of what we have around here for you know, for trees you'd want to cut into lumber. I shouldn't say obviously, but we do have quite a few trees bigger than that. But I'm happy with this mill, and it does everything I want it to do. Like I've mentioned in the comments before, that I think the 130 really would shine if you're into live edge lumber. You know, with the live edge boards, if you're wanting to make like tabletops or that kind of thing, you want to be able to cut the widest diameter logs that you can. So if you're into live edge lumber, probably the 130 would be better. For me personally, I'm happy with this, and I'm sure a lot of people are happy with the 122. The next question is something I think a lot of people have problems with sometimes, because I see it online a lot, and that is the blade, your blades coming off the band wheels. It's flying off on you. The one obvious thing is the tracking, and I'm assuming that a lot of the questions I see, that's not the problem, because that's the most obvious thing, is if your tracking's not set up right, your blade's going to come off right away. The only other things that I could personally tell you about, because one of them's happened to me a couple times, and that is sometimes I haven't done it in a long time, but when I first got the mill, I just forget to tension the blade back up, and it was kind of loose. And it's surprising, sometimes even if there's not that much tension on it, you start it up and you don't really notice, like it spins freely when you're just you know, about to go into the log, and then you go into the log and it flies off on you. So that's happened a couple times. That's a pretty obvious one too. Everybody makes mistakes, but just if it, you know, just if you've had it come off once or twice and it hasn't really done it, that could be one of the things, is maybe that one or two times you forgot to tension the blade up. So just keep that in mind. The other two things that I can think of is your blade guides. They're really important. You want to have them set up in the right spot, so you know, the blade's just in front of those, so when you go into the log, that's kind of like a backer. If you don't have them there, it could let the blade fly right back, or if you have them pushed too far ahead, it could shove the blade right off the front. So that's one thing that it could be. Another thing, just a dull blade. Like these mills aren't like a chainsaw or a skill saw where you know, you run it into the dirt and just say, oh well, you know, I'm just gonna give her for the rest of the day and see how I make out. If you're doing that with the sawmill, if you're having to start like forcing it through the wood really hard, I'd say there's a good chance you're gonna have that blade come off on you, and so that's just not something you want to do. And the other thing that kind of goes along with that is if you're pushing it too quickly through the wood too. So you want to let the saw do the work for you like any other saw. You don't want to be trying to, you know, force it right through the wood, have the motor bogging down, just trying to ram it through there. That's another reason the blade could come off the band wheels. So I realize some people have it coming off the band wheels and it's a lot more of a technical issue. I can't help you with that, but I thought I'd point out some of the simpler explanations that you might run into, and just keep that in mind if you're doing any of those things, that that might be your issue. Okay, so the next question that I see come up all the time, and I understand why it comes up all the time, that's because there's no one straight right answer, is how much lumber, how many logs can you cut with a blade? And the reason there's no bright answer is because if you get milling with one of these, you'll quickly find out it always varies, and there's just so many variations between the lengths of logs you cut. So if you think about it, if you're cutting a 16-foot log, that one log would be kind of the same as if you cut two 8-foot logs. The same with if you're cutting a bigger diameter log, could be, twice as much in it as a smaller diameter log. And then you have your types of wood. Some types of wood dull a blade a lot faster than other types of wood. For example, I have cedar here. That's kind of like my baseline, so I don't have a lot of other things to compare it to, but I know that I brought up a bunch of basswood here in one of my videos, and it was nice and clear and stuff, and I went a long time on that stuff compared to the cedar. The cedar, I'm just going to throw this out there, that on average, I'd say probably every 4 to 6 logs or something like that. Again, depending how big, how long, and everything. But if you want me just to throw a number out there, I'm going to say that's kind of the average amount of logs I go through before having to change the blade. And even that might be pushing it a little bit. The basswood I had up here, I cut like it feels like I didn't really keep good enough track of it, but it feels like I cut a ton of stuff with it without ever having to change the blade. So I think that's when people are asking a lot, like how much you can cut on a blade, how long does it stay sharp. The reason you can't get a really good answer is because it really does just vary so much depending on all the circumstances I said before. So sorry there's not like a more clear answer to that, but that's just the way it goes. I will just add to that by saying, in case it wasn't clear, like be prepared to be changing the blade quite often compared to what you might think. I kind of get the impression sometimes some people think that you just change the blade once in a blue moon or something like that. It's not like that, like every few logs, every half a day. That's kind of like what you're looking at. You're not going to cut for days and days and days without having to change a blade. It's just not going to happen. So be prepared, like it's going to be an expense, and you're going to have to change them, you're going to have to sharpen them. It's not something where you can just buy a blade every once in a while. Like personally, if you're going to order a mill, you might as well get 10 blades in my opinion with it, or if you want to go like get blades from a different company. But in my opinion, getting anything less than 10 blades to start with just is almost kind of pointless, because you're gonna start dulling them up like right away. So I just thought I'd throw that in there for something to think about. Like if you think you're just gonna get the blade that comes with it and use that for a while, that's gonna dull up before you even really get going on it. So just something to think about. I guess to build off of that last question, another question I've got a couple times was, where do you go to get your blades sharpened, or how do you sharpen your blades? I personally am gonna get my blades sharpened for the time being. I really have considered getting a sharpener at some point. I do want to get one. I haven't got one yet. I didn't get one when I got the mill, just because learning to use the mill and everything like that is, in my opinion, enough of a learning process right off the bat, rather than trying to learn how to sharpen the blades at the same time. But I kind of digress from the actual question. Where do I get my blades sharpened? I'm gonna take them to this small engine repair place that does it in the area, and I think that's kind of something you're gonna have to look into on your own, because I don't think, I could be wrong, but I don't think there's any like big box stores, or at least in this area, or things like that, you know, that is kind of the go-to place. A good place to look is, a lot of areas have like sharpening services, that sharpen all kinds of different things. So that would be a good place to look up if you're lost for somewhere to sharpen them. The place that I found, just word of mouth, and I think that's a good way to go. But usually there's somebody around, like I was saying, especially if you look up like a few different sharpening services and that will do that for you. So I've been asked a few times, how many horsepower is this mill behind me? This exact one is 14.5 horsepower Kohler engine. Now that is an upgrade for this mill. It comes standard with, I believe it's the 9.5 horsepower motor. So I'll just break it down for Woodland mills. There's 3 different models: the 122, 126, 130. The 122 comes with the 7.5, but you can upgrade to the 9.5. Then the 126 comes with the 9.5, but you can upgrade to the 14.5. And then there's the 130 that comes standard with the 14.5. You can't upgrade it any further than that. But the 130 max, I think it is, has electric start. So that's kind of all the engine variations that Woodland Mills offers and what you can get with each mill. So one question I see come up all the time is about what kind of lubricant you use in the lubricant tank. And I think I can say that myself and 99% of the other answers I see are pretty standard, and that is, if it's comfortably above freezing at all, use soap and water. And if it is going to be down around freezing or below, use windshield washer fluid. Now I will say about using the soap and water, you'll get to know, but don't go overboard on the soap. As long as your blade's staying clean, you're good to go. So that's what the soap's for. A lot of the gummy trees and that, keep that gum off there. As long as that's not getting on your blade, you're fine. Reason being is, that's also one of the things that can get your blade to come off, is if you put like way too much dish soap in there or something, that's like a really slippery. Just like when they ship the blade too, there's like a little bit of oil on it. Get that cleaned off. You don't want like an oily or soapy substance, like a lot of it, on that blade all the time. That can almost cause like a hydroplaning effect to make your blade come off. I haven't ran into that problem yet, but you know, just something like maybe start off a bit on the lighter end, unless you're having like a lot of problem with sap or gum or whatever sticking to your blade, then you'll know that you gotta dial it up a little bit. But that's the answer for that question. Well, I really hope that helped. If you had any of those questions, I know they're some of the most common ones I see around. I looked around for quite a while to, you know, see the questions that I see coming up most often, and I know they're kind of some of the more basic ones, but you know, when you're doing kind of like a video for everybody, I figured the best thing to do is focus on the ones that I see coming up all the time, and the ones that I feel that I can answer. There's a lot of other more technical questions that, like I was saying, I've only had the mill for 9 months, so some of those things I'm probably not the most qualified person to answer. But having said that, if you've got any questions or any problems that you think I might be able to answer for you, I'd be happy to talk to you in the comments below. So anyways, thanks a lot for watching, really appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.